In this video, we're going to talk about muscle contraction types. So the first one I want to talk about is an isokinetic. I can't demonstrate an isokinetic contraction. I don't have an isokinetic machine. You can read about it in your textbook. Know the definition for the purpose of your tests. Next is an isometric contraction. And an isometric contraction is where a muscle group is creating a contraction, but there is insignificant amount of joint movement. So for example, if I put my hand under the edge of my fireplace and I try to lift up, elbow flexors are contracting, but the joint's not moving. Therefore, it is an isometric contraction. If I lay down, and I push against the chair, but I don't move it, I'm creating an isometric contraction of the knee extensors. So it's push, 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 no joint movement. The next contraction type that we need to talk about is isotonic. So that's where a muscle group is contracting, shortening, or lengthening to create a motion. Now this gets a little bit confusing at first. Once you figure it out, it's not too bad. So if you stopped me in the hallways and you said, which muscle group is performing this motion, I would look at you and say, I don't know, I have to figure it out. It's not something I memorize myself because there's a lot of variables that come into play, but once you get the basic rules down, then you can figure out who's doing the work. So isotonic contractions break down into concentric and eccentric contraction types. Concentric, a muscle group is shortening. Eccentric, a muscle group is lengthening. So, anatomical position. This motion is elbow flexion. Elbow flexors. Elbow flexors are shortening. Therefore, it is a concentric contraction. Again, elbow flexion, elbow flexors are shortening. It is a concentric contraction. How do I know that? Well, I'm overcoming the force of gravity. Because if I just relax, my hand falls. Gravity pulls me back down towards the floor. So in order to overcome gravity, concentric. Now, I don't want my hand to fall. I want it to slowly come back down to the neutral position. So those elbow flexors are lengthening. Eccentric contraction of the elbow flexors. Here's the confusing part. What are the elbow extensors doing? Nothing. In this position, because I'm against gravity, for the flexors, they're going along for a free ride. Yes, you'll feel some tension back there because they have to stabilize the joint, but they are not doing the work of the contraction. So how do I make the elbow extensors work in a concentric, eccentric contraction? A couple of different positions. If I put my hand here, actually let's start here, and I want to straighten my elbow extensors must contract against the force of gravity. They are going to shorten. Elbow extensors, concentric. If I want to bring my hand back down, I want to do it slow and controlled. Elbow extensors are working eccentrically. Now, if you're struggling with this, the best thing to do is grab something like a weight or a can of soup, something that gives you a little bit of additional resistance. It helps you feel it. I'm going to make another video on concentric and eccentric contractions. I wanted to introduce it here. If you're scratching your head going, I'm confused, guess what? 99% of the people that are first introduced to this are also confused. It is practice, practice, practice. More videos to come.